Hi friends, some words of Torah for Chol HaMoed Sukkot. We are anxious, excited, and filled with hopeful anticipation that our hostages will be released and the war will come to an end sometime over the next few hours or days. During this time of anxiety, it's good to comfort ourselves with some Torah study, so let's find something we can sink our teeth into briefly. Question: what do the first chapter of Genesis and the book of Koheles, Ecclesiastes, have in common? They both discuss God, but name him only as Elokim. Throughout the creation story, that is how Hashem is identified, and throughout Koheles, Hashem is only known by that name. What's the connection? At the end of his Koheles commentary, Ibn Ezra writes cryptically that these two texts share the same secret. Let's try and unravel the secret. In the process, we might discover why we read Koheles over Sukkot. We begin with another ancient Greek philosophical idea. Plato's theory of ideal forms argues that our world is not the truest realm of existence. Beyond our corporeal realm, there is a more perfect world, where all forms are perfectly shaped, where circles are perfectly round, squares perfectly square, and all concepts are perfectly formed. Our world is an imperfect reflection of that perfect realm, where there are circular things in nature, but no circle and no concept will ever be 100% perfect. The nature of our universe is irredeemably flawed, and man's role is to do his best to bring our world to the state of ideal forms as much as humanly possible, even though he will never fully succeed in that endeavor. Part of the mystery of Hashem being identified as Elokim at the beginning of the Torah is that this is not Hashem's truest name, in the sense that the ineffable tetragrammaton, the Shem Havaya, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, is the most descriptive name of God. Rashi teaches that the name Elokim is descriptive of God's Midat Hadin, or attribute of justice. Originally, he says, God had planned to create our world with din only, but saw that the world could not endure on justice alone. He therefore added rachamim, mercy, to the world after the original creation. Thus, the very first depiction of God after the 7 days of creation is not Elokim any longer, but Hashem Elokim, indicating that the world is now both a combination of the four-letter name of God of Rachamim and the name Elokim, which represents Din. Now, one way of describing this tension between Din and Rachamim is that Hashem had planned all along to create a world that is imperfect. By placing man in this imperfect world, it would be man's task to do his best to perfect the imperfections. This plan is represented by the name Elokim in the Genesis story. Hashem's Midat Hadin would hold man responsible for any deficit between the imperfections and the perfect realm of ideals. Hashem later realized that man could never fully accomplish that task, and so he granted man the ability to at times transcend the natural order. Just as miracles are wrought by Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, representing a God who transcends the natural order, so is man endowed by the same Yud-Ke Vav-Ke name with the ability to transcend his failures and be allowed to succeed even when success is impossible. As the Sfas Emes puts it, man is not judged based on his actions, whereby he will invariably fall short, but rather based on his thoughts and intentions. As long as man's intentions are to make the world as good and perfect as he possibly can, God's Midat Hadin judges man based on his thoughts alone, and his Midat HaRachamim awards man as if he had actually perfected the universe indeed as well. Taken together with Plato, just as God has a separate realm of ideal forms, man's realm of ideal forms is his mind, which he is capable of perfecting. This is the story of creation, and it's also the story of Koheles. Koheles discusses the futility of trying to bring the world to perfection. Havel havalim, says Koheles. It is vanity of vanities, an exercise in futility. No matter how wise a person becomes, he will never amount to perfect knowledge. always being confused by the vicissitudes of this world. No matter how much he tries to perfect the world indeed, his efforts will never break through the boundaries of the imperfections of corporeality. The book ends by teaching us, Sof davar hakol nishma, when everything has been said and heard, et ha'elokim yira ve'et mitzvotav shemor, revere Elokim and observe his commandments, ki zeh kol ha'adam, for this is the totality of man. Ibn Ezra explains that this verse has to be read in concert with the very last verse of Kohelet, ki et kol ma'aseh ha'elokim yaviv mishpat, al kol ne'elam im tov v'im ra. And he reads that verse to mean, for every act performed for God will be judged not based on the actual physical outcome, but rather on the intent in man's mind, good or bad. As long as man's intentions are for the good, he will succeed in pleasing Hashem. Even though the world will remain imperfect, man will at least have made the world of his mind into its perfected ideal. And now we get to Sukkot. We read Kohelet on Sukkot since the Sukkah with its tzachach reminds us of the elusive perfection of receiving divine light. We can only succeed in getting the flashes of perfection peering through the lattices of our schach, but we will never see clearly through the occlusions of this world. But it goes deeper. Sukkot is also the universal holy day, a time when we offer sacrifices for the other nations of the world. Our commentaries tell us that representatives of the other nations would come to Jerusalem to celebrate the Sukkot holiday with Bnei Yisrael. Shlomo shared the divine wisdom of Kohelet with these non-Jewish scholars in the hopes that they would carry it back to their respective countrymen. Hashem shares this idea of man's function with the other nations. The only thing he does not share with them is his name of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Every human being is capable of dedicating his life to perfecting the imperfect, but only Bnei Yisrael is endowed with the promise that as Hashem's chosen people, as the bearers of Torah to the world, they will be further rewarded with Hashem's Midat HaRachamim. This is only fair, for just as we have suffered more than any other nation for having accepted the yoke of the 613 commandments and invariably falling short, we are also granted the intimacy of Hashem's mercy, which is manifest in the myriad miracles witnessed by our people throughout Jewish history. We have endured so much over these last 2 years. We have been in the tunnels with our brethren, have carried the lifeless corpses of our violated sisters, and have borne the brunt of the world's scorn and hatred. But we also bear the crest of God's ineffable name upon our people, a name which represents all of Hashem's divine intervention. May we truly celebrate with the rest of mankind, who will rejoice in Jerusalem with us over the release of the hostages. And so, dear friends, let's celebrate the remainder of the Chag with tears of joy, embracing our brothers and sisters once and for all, and may redemption truly arrive very soon. May we see it b'mheira b'yameinu amen. Here's wishing you Moadim l'simcha and Shabbat Shalom.